What's up, J Fusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So today, let's talk about Kiramager's Garza. Now, before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that these videos are not intended for viewers under the age of 13, so please be advised. So, Garza, okay, so he's one of the main antagonists of Machine Sentai Kiramager. Now, he has a very interesting backstory, and recently uh, we finally see some scans that we are indeed seeing Garza power up in the future. So he's going to be called Lord Garza. So I think for this one, we're going to get into Lord Garza later, but let's talk about his history first. So Garza was a crown prince of the planet Crystallia, and one day when the Yodon army attacked, so one day Jotunheim invaded the planet Crystallia. It was later revealed that Garza betrayed King Oradin, his older brother. So, um, I think the main reason for that is he has this inferiority complex. Whether or not he wanted to be king of Crystallia, I'm not really sure about that, but definitely he had an inferiority complex towards his older brother. So we know so far that King Oradin himself is quite a powerful being, but you know, again, Garza being the scheming younger brother that he is, uh, actually betrays Crystallia and allows the Yodon army. And actually, it is through him that they were able to conquer Crystallia, especially when uh, Garza, well, cuts Oradin. He doesn't literally stab him in the back, but he does slash him from behind. So that's why I was hesitant of using that term. Yeah, stab from the back. He slashed from the back, okay? So nonetheless, his betrayal allowed Jotunheim to conquer and practically destroy Crystallia, prompting Mabushina to head to Earth. So, knowing upon finding that out, so Garza indeed, well, not really, he finds out later, sorry. So, Garza proceeds to go to Earth because apparently it's the next target of Jotunheim, and this is where he meets up with Mabushina once again. With Mabushina actually having witnessed Garza's betrayal, albeit while hidden. So yeah, she does have some sort of resentment toward her uncle. And upon arriving on Earth, so eventually he does meet the Kirame Red, and it happens quite soon. And he does feel that similar aura that, he feels a bit of King Oradin in Judo. So, uh, while he is intrigued, for some reason, that unknown something that Judo has, this similarity to King Oradin kind of triggers Garza. Like his anger suddenly sparks. Like I don't know you, but you have the same aura as my brother, so I'm going to have to destroy you right away. So that's basically what Garza thinks, or that's what he thought when he first met Juru. Now, speaking of the Kira Major, so uh, we are of course going to mention Takamichi here, aka Kirame Silver. So Takamichi was kind of adopted into the Crystallian royal family after King Oradin took him to Crystallia from Earth in order to save him from the monstone that has entered his body. So by doing that, you know, uh, Takamichi stayed in Crystallia for more than 30 years, or at least 30 years, but nonetheless, during that time, uh, Takamichi and Garza would basically form a a familial bond. Like typically, even though he is adopted, Takamichi was still treated as a son, was still treated like a son by Oradin, and with that, of course, Garza treated Takamichi like his own nephew. So again, they did have some sort of familial bond until Garza's betrayal. So, of course, earlier on before Takamichi, so we do see that rivalry with him and Juru. Again, with that, uh, uh, Garza sensed something in Juru that reminds him of Oradin, and then, of course, later on with Takamichi, given that they are adoptive relatives, so to say. So that's basically his whole, twist with the Kiramagers. So as a villain, as part of Jotunheim, so Garza is shown as a very powerful swordsman. So he wields quite a large sword, wearing an armor, of course, uh, and serving as a general. Now, apparently, he hasn't met Emperor Yodon, and of course, eventually, when it is revealed that Yodonna was actually kind of an incarnation or an avatar, you could say, of Emperor Yodon himself. So it does, well, kind of surprises Garza, but like, interesting. So he's more into that side rather than like the shocked surprise, the kind of like Kuranchira. So as a general of Jotunheim, so he has also the ability to summon Small Joki. So basically, Small Joki is a corrupted machine, and initially he was able to control Small Joki until the arrival of the King Express. So uh, Juru was able to like override, the controls, and Garza couldn't do anything about it, right? Until he mastered his Jamental, which is the negative version of the Kiramental, which basically is the power of the Kiramager. So uh, he was able to control his negative energy, which is typically powered by his hatred towards Oradin and anything related to Oradin. So I guess that works out. And eventually, he even uh, was able to hijack the King Express and be able to be the one in control, given that his Jamental now somewhat exceeded that of any Kinamager that piloted the King Express. So again, he is quite a powerful villain. Now, okay, we are going to move on into the Lord Garza part. So, I think if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to put the link down in the description so you guys can read about Lord Garza and how he could impact the finale of Kiramager. So, from what I'm seeing here is, of course, there will be a big battle between the Kiramagers and Emperor Yodon, and then Emperor Yodon is defeated. Now, what would happen is that Garza would very much likely absorb the powers of the defeated Emperor Yodon into himself, thus bringing us Lord Garza. And his power seems to be so terrifying that even Kurantula probably would enlist the help of the Kiramagers just to stop him. Like he'd probably be out of control. So Kurantula probably doesn't want that to happen. And if that happens, then that technically would make Garza the final boss. And I actually would prefer that instead of just the Kiramagers fighting against Emperor Yodon himself. So uh, Emperor Yodon, he just came out recently, and even though he's technically the final boss, I get it. All of the all of Jotunheim's efforts, were actually to bring him into the human world, but you know, from a narrative perspective, Emperor Yodon isn't really one that the fans or the viewers have, you know, an emotional connection to. uh, sure, we see Yodona, which is also technically Emperor Yodon, but we treat them as separate characters. So, again, if we do focus on Emperor Yodon being the main villain, we knew he's there from the beginning, but we don't actually see him, As for villains, we only see Garza, Curantula, and of course Yodona. Shadow is out because he was wiped out in his very first and only appearance. Despite being extremely powerful, Shadow was no match for the Kiramagers. So, anyhow, Garza, again, absorbing the powers of Yodon into himself, or rather, it's either that, he willingly absorbs the powers of Jotunheim, or he becomes a host willingly or unwillingly. Either way, I think it makes, Garza would make for a better final villain because he's one that we connected with. Well, of course, he's not necessarily like one we could relate to, but he's the one who actually did most of the damage against the Kiramagers. He was able to bring them down to their knees by himself. you know he's that strong, and seeing him becoming even stronger again by becoming Lord Garza, so it would he would prove to be a far greater challenge than just the Emperor Yodon himself. So again, that's why I'm very much into the idea of uh, Garza being the final villain of Kiramager. Now, speaking of villains, uh, he kind of reminds me of villains like Enter from Go Busters. So both of them are technically general level villains. So they are generals of their respective villain groups. They served a higher power. You know, one who is supposed to be the main villain, like the boss, the main boss. But uh, Messiah and Emperor Yodon were background characters for the most part. Now, in Go Busters, Messiah could be seen often, talking with Enter, but it's usually Enter who goes out in the field, He's the one who interacts most with the heroes. And again, as I've said earlier, Emperor Yodon just came out recently, so he hasn't really that much of interaction with the Kira Majors compared to Garza, who has been with us since the very beginning. In fact, way back in episode 0. So, again, I would prefer someone who has been with us very early on in the series to be the final villain rather than introduce a boss that, you know, just so happens to be there, from the backgrounds. But again, I understand why it was so, because this is actually another similarity that they have. So in Go Busters, in order to bring, in order to bring Messiah into the human world, Enter needed to collect as much Enetron as possible. So they need energy. Eh, in the case of Emperor Yodon, so Kurantula basically says that they needed to collect jamental from humans. So he extracts those negative emotions and turn them into evil energy, which would in turn power up a portal big enough for Emperor Yodon to pass through and permanently uh, come out of his dimension. Because with his appearances through Yodona, it seems that his appearance is incomplete. Like he can manifest here in the human world, but he has to go, like he has to he only has a limited time seemingly. So he has limited appearance, and he has to either revert back into either Yodonna or Shadow. So again, his appearance as himself is very, very limited. So compared to Garza, again, who's been always there, he again, speaking of Garza, he actually seems to be the most effective of the generals of Jotunheim. Much more so than Yodonna, because like I've said earlier, he is such a fierce warrior that he was able to defeat the Kiramagers several times. He even manages to almost destroy Kiramagin in a number of bouts. So yeah, he's that powerful. And to me, he is very much more of a threat than Emperor Yodon, I would say. That's why I am very much on board with Garza being the final villain. So, anyways, what do you guys think of Garza as the final villain? So, let me know in the comments. So, again, thank you so much for watching. As always, please like this video, leave a comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JE Fusion. Again, this has been Philip, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!